Can anyone let me know that I'm audible properly?
Yes, you're audible.
Yeah. Hey everyone. So we will wait for 2 more minutes to others to join. Please let your friends know that the session is going to start. Uh, okay, till that time we wait. Can anyone let me know in the chat how many of you have attended the yesterday's session, day one? Let's make it a little interactive. Okay, Mohammed has attended, Tanu, Rajveer. Yeah, that's great. Okay, yeah, many have attended. We have a great attendees. Okay, how many? Okay, let me know how many of you are of which community, joining from which of the community. Just a quick shout out to that community you are joining from. Code Web. Okay, that's great. GDSC SRM. Okay, that's nice. Redna, GDSC AITR, ZAG. Okay, we have people around, all around, all around. Okay, so let's start with this session. So let me introduce myself first. So I am Amit Devangan, currently Google Developer Student Club's lead at Sri Sangazari Technical Campus, Bhilai. Uh, so today is the day two of the Flutter Forward extended session. Yesterday we have covered the introduction to Flutter. So this will be the implementation of whatever we have covered yesterday. So for that, we have a speaker, Aditya Thakur. He's a developer advocate at 100 MS, and also he's a 2+ years experience in Flutter development. He's been the prominent speaker in many of the conferences and tech conferences around the nation. And also he's the content creator for you in YouTube with 9K plus subscribers. So welcome, Aditya. Hi.
Awesome. Thank you for having me, Amit.
Yeah, stage is all yours.
Yeah, sure. So I'll go ahead and share my screen really quickly. Okay, awesome. So yesterday we had covered a few things in Flutter. So we were talking about widgets, how widgets are used to build applications. So we talked about a few: scaffold, text, container, column, etc. I hope some of it is clear since the last session. Today, what we'll do is we'll go forward with a few layout exercises so it will make more sense how these widgets are used. Then we'll talk about navigation, how you can move from one screen to other in Flutter. We'll talk about stateful widgets. If you remember, I talked like there are two types of widgets: stateless and stateful. There's also a third, but for now, like stateless and stateful widgets. So we'll talk about stateful today, and lastly, we'll build out an application in Flutter, just a small application, to see how far we are. So I hope since the last session you were able to install Flutter. So if you attended yesterday's workshop, we talked about how you can get started with Flutter. You need to have the Flutter SDK for your operating system. So if you are on Windows, Mac OS, depending on whatever operating system you are on, uh, please install Flutter. You can even do this after this session. And also, just as an update, we were talking about this zap.run. Like we were trying to use the zap.run yesterday, which is like an online sandbox, but it didn't seem to work. There is like a open issue here also, like pub get failed. This was the same issue that we were getting, and the Zap team is aware about it. This is, they have mentioned it here, like this is due to the hosting provider, and they have raised this issue like several days ago, but no resolution. So like that is why this was happening with us. But otherwise, like it's a great tool. Once they have this issue resolved, you can, practice and build Flutter applications in your browser. It's like a really good um, place. But right now it's not working, so wouldn't be able to use this. That is why, like, I would recommend having like Flutter installed on your system. So yesterday we were somewhere here, like we were looking at the different widgets, how to use them. What we'll do today is like we'll just get started. First thing that I want to do is tell you a bit about stateful widgets. So what I'll do is I like okay. First, let's do that UI thing. So if you are like just starting out, I'll clear this code from here, and we'll again start by creating like a new widget to use inside our application. Just minimize this for a bit. And if you are like on VS Code, if you're using VS Code, so you can have like a few extensions installed to help you with writing code. So one such extension is this awesome Flutter snippet. So this like generally it gives you these smaller shortcuts that you can use to quickly add a widget, and it makes writing code really easy. Then there is the Dart extension, which I have installed, and the official Flutter extension. So there are a lot of extensions available here to use, especially with like Flutter if you're working on a Flutter project. I'll go ahead in my main.dart file again. What I'll do is I'll create a stateless widget to just start out with. So to create a stateless widget, you can type in stateless, and it should create a stateless widget for you. um, I'll call this home screen again just to have something on screen, and when I do that and save the file, nothing appears on our screen. So yesterday we talked about scaffold, which is like a canvas for these material widgets. What it generally allows us to do is like have multiple things on screen. So it allows us to add like an app bar on the top, which goes at the top of the screen. So to add anything to widget, all you have to do is type in the name of the property that you're trying to define and then give it a widget. In our case, we wanted to add like an app bar, so we typed in app bar and then we gave it the app bar here, and it's showing me an error because I have the const keyword here. I can remove that. Once I do that, you'll see like a blue app bar appear at the top of the screen. And similarly, I can go down inside this scaffold again. So make sure you are still inside the scaffold. You can refer these small comments here that will tell you like what widget are you inside. So you can type in body here. So body is the part of the scaffold that is being shown on the screen, and to this we can give anything like text, uh, and give it a value like hello. So this should show like a hello text on screen. So this is something that we had covered yesterday as well. So when we are defining, when we are trying to add text, we type in text and then give it a value. Today, what we'll do is we'll talk about the column widget once again, just to wrap our like heads around that. So when I add a column, I need to type in column. What I did just now, I'll just again go over that. So you can keep your cursor on top of this text, and you can use this bulb like icon. So this is also available on Android Studio. This is available here in VS Code also. So what this allows you to do is like have some basic actions. So like wrap with center. So that should take this hello text to the center of our screen. And similarly, we have like these other layout widgets. One is again the column widget. And as soon as you do that, it will wrap it inside a list. So we have these square brackets here. So which means like this is a list, and I can copy paste this multiple times to have like this hello shown up on screen, one under the other. But we wouldn't do that. We'll skip this part, like we'll cut this out, because we had also seen this yesterday, like wrapping text with columns, so it showed them 3 times. What I want you to do is like try out the container widget really quickly. So I had shown container 2 yesterday. So I'm just going over all the widgets that we had talked about. Container is simply like, it allows you to add some, it like combines a lot of things like common painting and positioning widgets. So it allows you to give it like a height. So if we are trying to, add a container, we can define certain properties inside the container. And again, you do not have to learn these properties. Like since I am taking this workshop, I have worked with Flutter, so I know like, okay, these are some of the properties that are available to define. This comes generally through experience. Like after you have worked for some time, like you'll know, okay, that is the property I have to change, or this is something I have to change. But if you do not know like what all properties are available, so you can always keep your like cursor on top of that widget, and it will tell you like all the different properties that are available for you to work with. So here you have something called width, like width is written on the right, and it will also tell you what type of, what data type does it accept. So in our case, like width should be of type double, or height should be of type double. So we can give it like a number as a height. So you can type in 20 or 20.0, and you can also give it a width. So you type in width and then give that also a value. Again, go with 20, and it changes it to size box, but I'll keep this as container. And I will also add something called color. So colors dot blue. And once I do that, like you'll see like a small blue box appear here. Let's change this to yellow and make this a bit bigger. So what I want you to focus on really quickly here is like when we were typing in this widget, the way we define this widget is just simply writing container. Like this would create, a widget. We are getting an error uh, because we have to put a comma after the last widget to create like a new one. So this is also something to keep in mind. But this is like where we have defined this widget, like we have created this widget. But now when we are trying to like modify some properties, let us say you want to change the height. So remember this, you will just type in the name of the property, height, and then give the value in front of it. And if you do not know like what all properties are available to define, you can keep your cursor on top of this widget and just check out all the properties that are available. So we also have color. Why I'm talking about these again and again is just to, give you an idea, like when you're working with Flutter, these are some things that you need to keep in mind. So now when I do this, you'll notice like the first widget is showing up like a small box. So if I give it a bigger height, so you'll see like this first widget is, let's change the color for it to be better visible. So I'll make it red. And you'll see like the first one has a height of 80, but the width is restricted to only 20. But the other one, since we haven't defined a width here, containers generally take up as much space as is available. So this one stretches out, like it goes up uh, to the end of the screen. And even if I like increase the size, it would just go on and increase in width. This is one property about containers. But this is like a column layout, one under the other. If I put them side by side, if I like have to put them one on the side of the other, I'll have to use like a row widget to do that. What I want you to do is like when you're working with Flutter, the first step could be, laying these widgets out like container of same height and width, maybe 80, but with different colors. So I'll keep the height same and the width same. So you can try laying these out, different containers. You can experiment with how you would put text on screen. So this is like the layout part of the exercise. So this could be like a good starting point uh, to have this, layout exercise. One more thing that I want to point out here is, so right now we are defining these solid numbers like height is 80 or width is this much. But what if like we do not know, we can't be sure like, okay, when you're working on like a mobile app, you might want to make it able to adjust to the screen size. So if like it's a mobile phone, that should take some width, and if it's like a, you know, if it's like some other device, it should take up that width. So for that you can also for that you can use something called media query. So media query dot off dot context dot size and dot width. So what this will do is media query and then dot size dot width. It will give you the width of the screen, and that way like your widget would again take up as much space as is available to it. So even if you increase the size, it will like stretch with it. Similarly, you can also do this for the height. Like if we have only one widget on screen, right now it's only taking a height of 80, but we can change this to have as much height as is available on screen. So if I save that, you'll see like this takes up uh, space more than that is available. And we are getting this error because there is also an app bar on top. So right now you'll see like the color yellow has completely filled the whole height that is available on screen. And that is one way to, add some color to your Flutter apps. So media query, when you're trying to build applications that need it to be responsive, this is something that I wanted to point out, because when I first started doing an internship, I did not know about media query. And when like I was asked to build like a responsive design, so I was trying to guess the number on screen, like okay, 80 would fit, 90 would fit. And then like the person who was managing me, he asked me like why was I doing it like that, why was I trying to guess the number, because the screen sizes vary. On a mobile device, there could be like, I here have like two mobile devices. So this is like an Android and this one is a iOS, and both of them are like very different in screen size. One is very big and the other one is like really small. So there are different mobile devices out there, and you can't just put in numbers. So that is why where media query comes in handy. And for this workshop, I just wanted to point it out, so that when you are like working on this, about media query. So let's quickly also take up how do you go from one screen to other uh, in Flutter, and then we can start building our own Flutter project. So right now, everything that we have discussed has been, in the same file. Like we have been doing this in the same file. But when you are working on bigger projects, you can't just write all your code in the same file. So generally, what we do is like we create multiple directories. So let us say I create a new folder called screen, but all this dart code that we write is would go inside this lib folder. So if I just click and expand it, I will create the screens inside this lib folder. Always remember that. And inside this screens folder, like now I can create a new home screen dart file here, and take this home screen widget from here, cut it out, paste it here. And once I do that, I'll get an error, because whenever I'm creating a new file, I not like normally you have to import a material to use like a material widget. And so the first step is like importing this flutter material dot dart and then creating your widget there. Then you come back to your main.dart file, and we are getting an error here because this home screen is not imported. Like our code doesn't know where home screen is. So if I keep my cursor on top of it, I can fix that by importing this home screen from this screens folder. And that way the error should go away and I can save this file. I will see no changes right now because it's almost the same thing. Just what I have done is cut out the widget from here, pasted it in a new file and imported that. Now, one more important thing. I did a workshop once where, when like those people, when they were creating files, so they would also copy the main function. You only need one main function in the project, and this is normally in the main.dart file. So you do not have to do this again. You can go on creating new widgets here and then just link them inside your main.dart to navigate to them. And what we'll do is like this is our home screen, but I'll also do one more thing. I'll create a new file, call this something else, like maybe data screen dot dart. And once I do that, I'll have like an empty file here. Inside this empty file, I can again create a new widget. So if you remember, we were creating new widgets by typing in stateless uh, and then giving it like a name. So we'll go with data screen. And we'll also have to do is like import material at top. So this is our first step: import the material package, then create a new widget. So our extension generally writes this basic code. It is returning nothing on screen right now. It's like an empty container. What I can go ahead with is like add a scaffold. This is also generally preferred. So whenever you're creating a new file, you import material, you create your widget, and then you like return a uh, scaffold here. And inside this body, we can add some text for now, which is like second screen or something. So again, this is like simple code. We have just added here a simple text that says second screen, but right now we can't see it inside our application. So how would you go from this home screen to this data screen? So that is where navigation comes in, because one application can have multiple screens. If you have used a mobile app, there is always navigation involved. You're going from one screen to other, maybe coming back and all that stuff. So I also wanted to take that up for this workshop. What I'll do is here inside, instead of using this container, I'll cut this out. Once I do that, I'll get the white screen again here, and I will also cut this column. I'll just have empty body with something called an elevated button. So in Flutter, there are different button options available, and with like when we create a new button, there are two things that we need to do. One is adding a child. So it can have like a child. So this could normally be a text widget which tells like what is the purpose of the button. So like go to second screen would be what the button is doing. Or like if you are building like authentication into your Flutter app, it could be sign in with Google. If you are you know like buttons can be used for a lot of things. You can do that purpose can go inside this text widget. So it can also be something else, like maybe an image. So you can also have that as a child. But what I'll do is, what it also needs is, now we are still getting this error because we also need to define something called an onPressed. So onPressed is like an unnamed function. So what it does is basically this is the function that is run when you click on the button. What would your button do when it's clicked on? So that code goes inside this onPressed. And if I save this file, I can keep this empty and you'll see like a button appear on the screen. And what I'll do is I'll quickly center this by wrapping it in center, and that way we'll have the button on the center. Now, when I click on this, like nothing happens. It does nothing. The button is not doing anything. So to go from this home screen that we are right now on to this data screen or the second screen that is there, we have to modify this on pressed. For this, in Flutter, we use navigator. So this is like how to go from one screen to another, and like it might not make sense immediately. So what I'll do is I'll also point you to the navigation part. So if I go down here, it should be somewhere. Yeah, it is under user interface, something called navigation. So they have mentioned how to use this navigator to go from one screen to another. And the code is a bit complex, but stay with me here. So we use navigator dot off. We pass in the context. So in Flutter, context is used to like tell the widgets the position in the tree, and you'll notice like every like build function has context in it. So this build function also has context being passed down. So navigator.off is actually a way, it's like a inherited widget implementation. So it is used to navigate from one screen to another. That is all that you need to know. So we use navigator.off context, and then we do a push. So this is used to push like one widget on top of the other, and we then tell it what widget we want to push. So in our case, we'll use the material page route to build this new widget on screen, and the name of that widget is a data screen. So if I quickly save this file, so this is how it looks like. We use this navigator, we push a new widget, which is this data screen data screen, which comes from this file here. And you'll notice like Flutter itself imports this new data screen. And once I do that, when I click on go to second screen, it will show that second screen because we have that text on it. And to navigate back, what we can do is we can add an app bar on this second screen. And when I do that, like you'll see like a blue app bar appear here, and we can use this back button, which is built into the app bar, to go back. So you'll see like now we are able to go from one screen to another. This can be used in a variety of ways, because your applications would have different elements on one screen, and then depending on certain things, you can make the user go from this page to a new one where you can have other things, and then go from that to a third page and like build out your complete application like this. So this is like a basic example of navigation. Now let's do like a project using this. Like we know about navigation, we know a few widgets, like we are able to show text, we are able to create like some painting, like we are able to use some painting widgets like container to paint something like some colors on screen. So let us use that information to build like a small API project. So this will also teach us like how to use external packages in Flutter, which is something that is available to us. Uh, we'll start right off with visiting pub.dev. So if you are coming from web development, you might know of npm, like that is the package manager there. Here in like pub.dev is the official package repository, and like you can find different packages here, and then use the flutter pub add command to add a package into your Flutter project. And why we need packages is like the framework is available for us to use, but there could be a few things that you might have to do, like fetch some data off the internet. So we need like something called an http package, and that http package has the functionality to like make these http requests. So these are not built in into the framework, just to keep the framework light. Like if you do not need it, you do not have to use it. So http is available. There are other options like do, a few package options in this. And if I just go back to pub.dev, like you'll see like there are a lot of packages to use. So one is Google Fonts. Let us say you want to add like a nice font to your Flutter app, so you can use this Google Fonts. Uh, there is a permission handler. Since I work with 100ms, they are a audio video SDK company, so we build like apps that allow you to do live audio video calls and such. So you might need like a permission handler to get permission from user. Like if you want to use their camera, you need permissions for that. If you want to use their mic, you need permission. So this permission handler makes it easy to get these permissions. There are other packages as well, like country code picker for showing like what country this easy to develop applications. It will show all these like country list, and that way you can build out your application without having to write complete code from scratch. So you don't have to write all those country codes yourself. You can use a package. Generally there are packages available for a lot of things, so you can search for it, find something that suits you. What we'll work with today is this http package to make a http request, and we'll use like a free API. So I was looking up free APIs. It's trying to find like a jokes API that we could use, but we'll go ahead with this API, which is a Chuck Norris, who is like an American actor, and we'll go with this API because this allowed us to do some things without having to use like an API key. And if I just open this endpoint uh, with the jokes.random, so it like shows us some output, and it has this value which has the joke in it. So it says here Chuck Norris house has no doors, only walls that he walks through, which is funny. So we'll use this API to like show maybe a joke inside our Flutter application. And if you are trying to run this, I have some extensions. I have some extensions active, but if you do not have an extension, and if you paste this URL on your web browser, you'll get like if you'll get something like this. So we transfer data as a string. If you're familiar with how JSON works, so we transfer this data as strings, and we need to parse this data. So when like I make a API call, I will get data as a string, and then I have to parse this. So it's like a it has like key value pairs. If I again go to parsed, so you'll see like there are key value pairs which are the keys are string, and then you have data which can be dynamic, or in this case it's like all no, it's also a list here. So but it's like it's dynamic, it can be list, numbers, booleans and such. So this is like a very simple example. I also paste the URL here of the API, and let's go with it. Like we'll go to this my app widget here, and go down to home screen. What we want to do is like we want to make this API call, get that string first, we'll print it out, and then we'll parse it to show something on screen. So inside this on pressed of the button that we have here, like we can change the string to get me a joke maybe. And now inside this on pressed is where like our functionality would go in. So put a joke here, I'll add this comment, and I'll come back to my HTTP package, and you'll notice like this package has how to use it inside the readme as well. So the first step with using any package is adding it to our Flutter project. In our Flutter file, which we didn't talk about yesterday, is the pubspec.yaml. So this pubspec.yaml file is the file that decides your dependencies, and you have like other configuration things here. So we have something like the name of the project that we had created, description of it, the version. So if you have noticed in mobile applications, whenever you update your app, there like the version changes. So like you can identify each build by their version, and in Flutter too, like we have this version here that we can configure. It also has the environment that of the SDK that we are using. Uh, we can add some dependencies. So this is where we have to add this HTTP package, and then it has other things like a lot of comments here that you can also get rid of. So with pubspec.yaml file, one more thing that you need to keep in mind is the spaces before. So generally there is a rule of two spaces. Like this dependency has no space before it, but anything that goes under these dependencies will have two spaces in front of them, and anything that goes under that would have like four spaces, and you'll go so on and so forth. So here we are adding a dependency, so it will only have two spaces in front of it. This is something to keep in mind. A lot of new Flutter developers get errors. What we can do is we can copy this HTTP, paste it here, and have two spaces in front of it. That way we are able to add the HTTP package. If I save this file, VS Code would automatically perform something called pub-get, which gets this package and adds it to our adds it to our Flutter project so that we can use it. I'll again return to my lib folder inside this home screen. First thing that I need to do here is like import the package that we are trying to use. So I'll add this import http dot and I'll do something called add as http, so I can use this http now to like perform a API call inside our Flutter app. So now they also have like a small example and of how to get data. So we can just copy paste it or we can write it from scratch. That is totally up to you. And once I do that, I'm getting some error here. But what I'll do is I'll get rid of the code that I don't need. What they are basically done is we first define our the endpoint that we are trying to get data from. So you can type in this as the URL, and then we'll perform a http.get on that, and we'll get a response. And using this response, we can if it's successful, we can print out the status. If it's not successful, then we can introduce like some error handling there, and we'll get a body of the data, the same string that we were getting on our browser. So this is the string that we were getting, and we'll have to parse it to get one individual value. So let's do this from scratch once. Inside this, first thing that I want to do is, first thing that I have to do is define this URL, so I can get rid of the other code for now. So we'll copy this endpoint from here and we can paste it right here. That way we'll have this URL created. URI is the, it wraps all URLs. So if you'll search for URI in Flutter, you'll get this URI class. So we can use URI.https to like create a new, like it is a constructor available to us. So you can pass in your URL there and it will do that. Instead we'll use URI.parse. Okay, this should explain this better. Okay, so the this func that this constructor that we are using, URI.parse, what it does is it basically creates a new URI object by parsing this string. So we have this URL in Flutter. URI is the is the superior class to URLs, and we are trying to just create this URI from which we'll get this data. Um, So we create this URL here, and now like we have to get a response from it. So using the we'll type in response. This is like a new variable, and to get the data, like we'll use this HTTP package uh, that we had imported. Import HTTP dot as HTTP here. Use this HTTP to get the response from this URL. So we can paste this URL here, which it has automatically done. Now we are getting an error because response is not defined. So we can define it as HTTP dot. And now the error that we are getting is a value of future response can't be assigned to variable of response. So this takes us to the concept of asynchronous programming in Dart. What we need to do is like to be able to get data. Now getting data can be a slow process. So when we are making this request, it would take some time to make that call to the server, get some data back. And that is why we need to make this function one asynchronous, and two, we need to wait for this request to complete. So before executing other lines inside the same function, like inside this on pressed, before navigating to the second page, we want to get the data from this API call. So we'll have to await it, like wait for it to be done completely. And once it is done, uh, we can print out the response. So this called it response dot status code. So we can print out the status code just to check, like if it's 200, like the call was successful. And we can also print out the response body. So body would have the string like the one that we saw. uh, I'll come back to my terminal. I'll close this off. And right now it does, like before navigating to this data screen, we'll just try and get that data. I'll reload this project. I have it open here. Okay, so I'll restart my application and click on get me a joke. Let's see, we'll do it again. Like we'll run the application again because we have added a new package. Let's see if it works. I'm getting an error. Let's change the device once. Okay, so what happened now is we are running this application on web, and I like we are again doing that. We have first created this URI, which is the URL that we want to fetch it from, and then we wait for that response to come in. And once it does, we print it out. So we are getting on the terminal this response status code, which is 200, and we also have a joke which is fetched from this. Like from the URL, and it is like printed out here. So now what we have to do is, like, after it successfully does that, after it prints it out, it navigates to the second page. But now we want to be able to take this data that we get from the internet and show it on our data screen. So this is like the second screen that we were navigating to. So I'll come back to this data screen, and I can create like a local variable here, so which would say data fetched. Like maybe just uh, do like a string joke. So this is like a new variable that we have created. And once I do that, I will add it to the constructor here and make it a required property. So whenever we are navigating to this page, we'll have to pass in the joke to it. So that is, this joke would be shown by it inside this text instead of like the second screen text. So once I do that, like, I can save this file. We have added this joke, which is a local property, to this constructor, and we want to show that on a like application. Now when I come back to my home screen, I'll get an error because it needs me to pass the joke here. And to do that, I can, what I can do is like I can quickly create like a local variable here itself after parsing this. So I'll have to create a new string. So string, call this joke response, and to get this joke from the response body, I'll have to first decode this data. For that, I'll import convert convert. So this is another this is like used to convert this data from JSON. So it has like two commonly used converters. Like it can both encode the data and it can also decode this data. And we'll import it as convert, and we can use this. Okay. Import dot convert, trt dot convert as convert here, and use this convert dot JSON decode and pass in data dot sorry, response dot body here. And then we have to like from this response dot body we have to get the value. So I'll just type in like if you go back to your API response once, you'll see like if I use this extension, so this is like an extension that I have installed. I'm not sure what is the name of the extension. I think it's JSON formatter. So this basically converts, this JSON from a string to like a better view, so you can know what all things are available. And you'll notice like inside the two brackets, we have value which generally carries the joke. The rest of the data, like the icons and everything, we don't really use that as much. So we'll just take this value key from here and we'll pass this value key here, and then take this joke response and pass it to okay. So and take this like joke response inside our data screen. We're getting an error because joke is required. So this joke right now is an empty screen, but we can use joke dot response here. So now if I quickly, restart the application, I can click on get me a joke. It should take some time after I click on it. And as soon as that happens, it prints out the API response here, and it also shows the value. So uh, this value that we hear, which says Chuck Norris once had a weak moment, just to know what it felt like. So it will take this value from our home screen, pass it to the data screen where it is shown. We can also improve the UI by a little bit. Like if I go back to my data screen, I can, change the style a bit. Uh, Maybe like a text style, give that a value, font size, increase the font size a bit. Let us say 40 maybe. Once I do that, I'll come back to this, and now you can create a little bit like bigger text that is shown. So this way you have like you can fetch a API response and show it in your application. We can also do a few other things, like we can maybe wrap it in a container. So we can say wrap with a container and give this container like a different color. So colors dot amber dot shade 50, that work, shade 100. Okay, so if I click on get me joke now, you'll see like it is wrapped with a container which is a bit of yellow color, so that way you can modify the UI around it, maybe give it like, maybe center the text also a bit so that it is better visible. So wrap with center also, and it will come in the center of the screen. So this is like only a basic example of how you can use an API, and we are almost at the end of this session. So all we have done is, we started off yesterday by talking about a few basic widgets. So we talked about like the text widget, image container. We can also use an image widget here. If you'll notice, like the API response also has a icons URL. So this is like icon URL. So let us also try to use that in our app. Uh, let me just copy this again, paste this one line under it. So image response, call this variable image response, cut out this icon URL here, paste it here, and let me also pass this image response to our data screen. So right now inside that we are getting an error because we haven't created here. So let me say string image maybe, and make it also a required field. So this dot image, and then I can maybe add it here, but I might get an error trying to show an image, but let us try anyway. uh, Wrap with the column, let us say an image, which is the image widget, and network image. So network image, and this network image would get the image URL. There is like a very big chance I might get an error, but let's try this. Okay, that is not safe for work. Okay, so we are getting an error. There is some issue with showing image in the web. Okay, so what I wanted to highlight, I think there is this network image issue in Flutter, which I'm aware of. That is why I knew like we would get an error. Uh, some of these images are not shown properly in Flutter web, but if we might run it on like let us try a mobile emulator really quickly. So let me run a Pixel here. So Pixel is like a mobile emulator. Let us try running the same application on that. So whenever we are trying to run on Android, it takes some time to like build the Gradle files, and we'll also wait for it to do that quickly. uh, Also, I was talking about like what all we have discussed. So we talked about container, like the basic widgets, text container and such. Today what I wanted to highlight was first media query for like building responsive layouts. Number two, this navigation part. So we are going from one screen to another using this navigator. We created a new file where we had made another widget. We wanted to have like a joke and other properties here, so we defined those and we were using them in our code. Then from the home screen, we are first, when we click on the button, fetching some data and then passing it to this second widget. we're getting an error. Uh, why? This is like a valid URL. Okay, it's not a valid URL. For some reason, like there is no image here, so that is why probably why we are getting this error. But the code is working fine for the text value. For the image, we don't have anything on the web also, so it is not able to show anything in the app either. But anyways, I think that should do it. Like home screen, we like saw how to pass these values from taking this value from home screen, passing it to other. Hopefully this makes a bit sense, as in like how do you build out an app. If you want the code to this app, like let me know. Most of it is available, the documentation of the package, and you can quickly build it from there. uh, and yeah, so like we also saw how to use a package in Flutter. Like we were able to import the other package. Concluding my presentation of with a few projects. So let's talk about those really quickly. When you're starting out with Flutter, I would recommend, after this session, if you install Flutter, to first try your hands out on some UI clones. So if you like want, if you have an app that you generally use, like maybe Instagram, you can try out building Instagram clone and such. Then we maybe move on to building apps that have some, native implementation, like playing some music and more, audio integration, accessing local files on your device. We talked about working with APIs. It's like very simple. You have to get data off the internet and you can just parse it to show something on screen. There are a lot of other APIs also available to use, like weather API, news API, that you can build your Flutter projects on. Moving on, then, Flutter is a front end focused framework, but you might also have to build applications that use a database. So I would recommend learning a bit about databases. Firebase is the easiest to integrate. It's like a few commands and you'll have like a database running. There are other Firebase alternatives, Superbase, AppWrite, and you can also use custom backend with your Flutter app. Like you can build out a Node.js backend, use that with your Flutter app. If you have been watching, Shark Tank, a lot of companies that have come up mention their tech stack as Flutter for front end and Node.js for back end. Um, with this, I would recommend checking out authentication, some crude operations in Flutter, and then you can go on to learning state management. So we didn't talk about state management in this session, but it's quite an important part as a Flutter developer. There are a few packages, like the HTTP package that we talked about. There are a few packages available for you to use to manage data in apps. So there's Provider, Riverpod, and others. Then you can take up like building an e-commerce application in Flutter. So this would teach you about how do you manage the state and also how do you integrate payments. This could be a good project if you are also into freelancing, because a lot of freelancers uh, get asked to build like an e-commerce app. So if you have some code already done as a project, it might be easier to, build that for a client. And lastly, you can try out making a game, because Flutter team has been pushing games a lot. There is the Flame engine available for you to use, so you can build out mobile games as a Flutter developer. Lastly, how do you find this? Talking a bit about roles and internships. A lot of companies here in India hire Flutter developers. If you are into stock trading and such, you might know about Zerodha. So they use Flutter for their applications. There are other companies like Zest Money that use Flutter. Lately, TCS had posted a lot of roles around Flutter development. Tata Digital, I think, uses Flutter. Uh, like India Today hires Flutter interns, so there are a lot of companies using it. How do you find your first role? So after this session, if you go ahead and start with Flutter, I would recommend, as you're learning Flutter, building projects in it, do put them out, like do put them out to socials like LinkedIn, Twitter. Maybe take a picture of this workshop, if you have spent so much time and like posted on LinkedIn there, like, okay, you attended this workshop on something, and that way, more recruiters come across your profile, they check you out. Like learning and building in public really helps. um, to find your first role, you can apply to a few startups at first, and then gain some experience from there, uh, and like move out to other bigger roles. What companies hire, so as I talked about, a lot of these startups are using it. A lot of like a few established companies like TCS have started to hire Flutter developers recently, and we'll only see an upsurge in the companies that use it to build out their applications. So there wouldn't be a shortage of roles as such. Is it feasible to work full time? Yes. There are a lot of the Flutter developers out there are paid at par with any other mobile developer or engineer for that matter. They get the same salaries. If you are into Flutter, you can learn a native side integration as well and become a complete mobile developer to get higher packages, or to get better opportunities. Lastly, you can find some free resources to learn Flutter, some like project based videos that will guide you through how to get started with Flutter on go.learnflutter.in. So go.learnflutter.in, this should take you to like a Notion doc which has Flutter course. There are three courses here. Then project based learning, you can build out like an Instagram clone and such. And also to reiterate, we are having that giveaway for every GDSC session that I'm doing. So adityathakor.in/giveaway, and this should take you to a form. We are giving away the complete Flutter and Dart bootcamp, and lastly, mentorship calls. So that is it for this session, and hopefully you were able to get something out of it. If you have any questions, feel free to like put them in the comments. And again, like if you want to connect with me, if you have like questions even after this session, or if you like feel comfortable asking on socials, so I am on Twitter, Aditya Thakur XD. You can also check out my YouTube channel. And lastly, you can join our Flutter community on Discord. So we are around 1,600 or 700 members there, and we majorly talk about Flutter. I also put up roles there, like if I come across any internships. So take a screenshot of this and use the QR code to join the Flutter community on Discord. Awesome. Then let me know if you have any questions. I'll take them up from the comments. Stop sharing my screen. Okay. That yellow box. Yeah, we can directly give padding, I guess. We'll use text widget, or we can add some padding around it to make the yellow box away from the text. If you are asking about routing, so I didn't get this one question because I am not a web developer, but we can have like, if I go over to Go Router again. So this is another package available to use. What it does is it's like a Navigator 2.0 in Flutter. So it lets you have those routes. So if you are on web, uh, you can use it to have like the homepage dash the value. So like homepage dash contact. So it will, like if you go over to contact page, it will show that URL in the web app. So yeah, you can do that. uh, what's full stack Flutter development mean? So it generally means like Flutter is majorly used for front end side of things. So you need to connect it to a back end. That would mean, so you can use Node.js as the backend, but there are also other options available. Generally, a lot of Flutter developers, when they're just starting out, they use Firebase. But if you're like familiar with Node.js, definitely you can use that. There would be no restriction on this. So learn Flutter and then use a backend with it. I think that would be full stack. Do you need React Native? No, you do not need React Native. But like if you are a Flutter developer, you can find jobs as such. If you want to, you can also learn like the Android or iOS side of things to just be better at it. Like you can then have mastery on one uh, native side thing, and then also have like Flutter knowledge. So it generally helps you find better roles. What will be the best backend for Flutter? So it generally depends on your use case. There isn't a best option as such. Like if you are familiar with Node.js, if you work better with that, just use Node.js. You can use it in Flutter. I prefer Firebase for my side projects only because it has other features also, like a lot of other things to use. Like you can use analytics there, and add other things. Uh, Remote config and all such other things are available. I also use it for FCA, like push notifications. So that is why I majorly use Firebase for my side projects. How to search or find job for Flutter developer? So again, one way of doing this is you build out your profile so that the recruiters reach out to you. Like when I first started, I was putting out so many projects. I had connected with people in Flutter community, so whenever like there was a role open, they would generally ask me if I was available, and like if I wasn't, I can send it to someone else I know. So that is one way. But if you want to look up, so I think for websites, I like Angel List, which is now well found. So you can try that out because a lot of startups put out roles there. The other way is, if you go over to Twitter, just search for Flutter hiring, and it will show you like all the latest posts. Normally Twitter is a better space because a lot of people from Flutter community are active there. You can find like the people who work on the Google Flutter team also there, so you can connect with them. So that is like the second way. Third is by joining communities and such. So whenever a role goes out, normally they put it there. Also, fun fact, like Flutter India also has its own Discord. There are a lot of people from India who are into Flutter development hang out there as well. We have our own Discord where you'll find roles. So yeah. Also just got a reply, like I think zap.run is fixed uh, right now. So you can try that out as well for your Flutter apps. Like to if you only want to run it in the browser, so it should be fixed. Let me, yeah, it's like working right now. So just after the workshop. Okay, awesome. Let me know any other. Okay, what are the projects do you prefer for getting jobs? Um, like I would recommend having some projects that highlight your knowledge in all these things. So if you can build out a Flutter app that uses a backend, that is a good project. So this could be something like maybe an expense tracker, or maybe an e-commerce app, because it would also require backend. um, you can build out like some fun projects that you wanted to do yourself, so that is also a good space. So chat gpt api is available, since we talked about api integration. So maybe try out how chat gpt would work. You can build projects with that. So that would be an api project. Then you have your e-commerce app, which comes under database, and it also uses state management for cart. Then there are other projects. I would say, like, if you can try to scale your project to some users, maybe, or try to push it out to Play Store or App Store, whichever is like better for you. That way, you'll have generally a better chance of getting a job. So if like somebody has an app deployed to Play Store, it takes a lot of effort, and generally Play Store doesn't review like very made applications. So it is like a good sign that you have your app on Play Store. put your projects on GitHub, like modify the README there so that any recruiter looking through your projects can, see what it does, and it would help you stand out. Best YouTube channel to develop projects. So there are two channels I would recommend you. One is Vandad's. So why I recommend that is because it has lot of so why I recommend this is like Vandad's channel. It has like a lot of beginner concepts like state management and such on it. And then there is Rivan's channel. So Rivan is I think still in his 12th standard, or I think he's giving his board exams this year. But he has like a lot of fun projects. So he's built out Reddit clone, Amazon clone, and chat app and so much more. So his is like a good channel for projects. Vandad's channel for concepts. So these two like are good recommendations. What are some industrial practices? So it generally depends on the application that you're building. Like we were talking about state management packages. Internally, a few companies do not even use these packages, so they have their own state management built out. So it generally helps if you are like know the basic concepts instead of learning like how do these, like instead of using these packages, like just be aware of how it works internally, because some companies have their own internal packages built out. They don't even use these packages, or like they don't want to have dependency on any external thing. That is why having your basic concepts clear would help you in the long run. uh, like one such company I think is also Zerodha, so they have their own state management they use. There are other things like architecture that you might have to look into, design patterns as you go on with Flutter development. So like with any framework, if you are learning something, there will always be something new to explore. So Flutter is also a lot like that. uh, as you grow in Flutter, you also have to look into optimizations, minimize API calls, cache a lot of data for like offline, like when your app is not connected to the internet, so you don't want to leave out the user hanging there. You have other things such as I think better routing, like Navigator 2.0 is available to use. So instead of using 1.0, you can use 2 for error apps. So these are all like some things that you have to look into. Also with the newer release, it will be like Dart would be null safe. So that is coming with 3 point, like with the Dart 3 launch soon. So yeah, that would be something to look forward to.
So yeah, folks, we come to our end of the session. Thank you so much, Aditya, for this amazing session, and thank you, folks, for joining in. And see you in the next session if we organize another one.
Thank you so much for having me. Bye, bye everyone.
Bye, bye, everyone.